Listen, if you are a young woman in America, or you care about a young woman in America, pay close attention to this nomination.
Women's lives are on the line. This is very, very serious.
Now is the exact time to get maximum hysterical.
One unique thing about my particular clerkship with Judge Kavanaugh is that between the time when I was offered the clerkship and when I came to clerk, I had a child.
I actually got engaged while I was clerking for Judge Kavanaugh.
By the time I showed up to clerk, I was the mother of a toddler, which I don't know if that's unique among his clerks now, but at the time it was certainly unprecedented. I was the first of his clerks who had ever had that kind of familial obligation to balance with the clerkship. Who knew if he was going to tolerate it for me?
We scheduled our wedding for right after my clerkship with Judge Kavanaugh was supposed to finish. And as we were coming up to the wedding and towards the end of my clerkship with Judge Kavanaugh, I was helping Judge Kavanaugh with a major opinion. And I think we were up to draft 125. And it became clear that we were still going to be working on the opinion right up to the time I got married. And so I went into Judge Kavanaugh's office and I thought this through. I was so nervous.
A couple of months before I clerked, while I was still just swimming around in concern about this issue, the judge called me out of the blue. He said, I know we have a situation here that I haven't personally dealt with before. He had this just very frank and open conversation with me about how he thought we could adapt hours, etc., to try to accommodate my needs as a mother so that I would not have to go days without seeing my child.
I said, Judge, you know, I've been thinking about it and I think I just need one day off before the wedding just to get everything together and so I can keep working on this opinion right up till then. And he said, Rebecca, no, you're gonna be taking a full week off before your wedding and I'm not gonna hear from you, and don't worry, I've got this opinion covered. I don't really need you on it, which is true. And I'll see you at the wedding, and I don't want to hear a peep from you before then.
He asked me what I thought, would be best and what would be necessary, and he was just very open and respectful of my views as the person who was going to be in this situation. We came to a mutually agreeable arrangement, and I was just kind of floored, because I'd only had a child for a year and a half, and I'd been working at a firm, and I thought they'd been very accommodating. But no one had ever been as respectful and as proactive in trying to help me manage the competing obligations of my career and family as the judge was in that conversation.
It was just, it's a small thing, but it really meant a lot to me because it was a big day, and he was totally right. I really did need every day of that week before the wedding to get things together. Unsurprisingly, he finished the opinion without me with no problem whatsoever, but it was a moment that really made me appreciate how he can balance really hard work with fundamentally humanity and understanding.
It was an awesome experience for me as a young mother who also had this kind of major career opportunity to be able to do both and to be respected in both of those roles by my employer.
Judge Kavanaugh, you don't belong in this building as a justice. Judge Kavanaugh, you should not be serving in this building as a Supreme Court justice.
He is a dangerous man who will endanger our fundamental freedoms.
This tiny sliver of the legal profession, which is to say, DC Circuit, Supreme Court, is actually surprisingly male-dominated. I clerked on the Supreme Court, and the year I clerked, I think 26 of the 39 clerks at the Supreme Court were men, and that's a pretty typical ratio at the Supreme Court. And so the fact that Judge Kavanaugh is hiring so many women, in fact, a majority of his clerks have been women. One year, I think he hired 4 women as law clerks, is notable in this little sliver of the legal profession. He has hired more women proportionally than any other judge on the DC Circuit and than any justice on the Supreme Court. I think no justice on the Supreme Court has ever had a year where all 4 of their clerks have been women. And What that means is that Judge Kavanaugh is really contributing to diversifying this segment of the legal profession. He's doing that by hiring women as law clerks, but then also by mentoring them and advocating for them throughout their careers.
I wouldn't be surprised if female clerks then gravitate toward working for such a judge, because they hear from the other clerks who've worked for him that this is a place where genuine gender equality, but equality of all kinds, where it's just a pure meritocracy.
I'm here today because of a genuine threat to hundreds of millions of women across this country. A threat to their constitutional right to make decisions about their own bodies, and a threat to their access to the full range of health care that they need to live productive lives and to grow healthy families.
I don't think it's really fair for any single constituency to claim that he is or is not going to do something, quote unquote, for them. I kind of just think that that's a red herring and something that is used to distract from what the real conversation should be.
I think that Roe v. Wade is in many respects sort of a red herring that politicians have used to stir up emotions about Supreme Court nominees for decades, but the truth is it's been on the books since the early 1970s. Everything about Judge Kavanaugh's record suggests that he takes each case on an individual basis.
The fate of Roe v. Wade is really not what's going to determine the fate of abortion in America. Those are two, separate questions. And so what you think about the fate of abortion in America should not really turn on one decision from 1973.
As a judge, I hire 4 law clerks each year. I look for the best. My law clerks come from diverse backgrounds and points of view. I am proud that a majority of my law clerks have been women.
Clerking for Judge Kavanaugh was one of the most kind of intense experiences I've ever had. It was like a clinic in excellent lawyering.
He's a great boss. He works harder than anyone else in his chambers, so it's inspiring. He has really high standards for his work product. He crafts every single word of every single opinion, and he expects his law clerks to help him with that and be equally careful.
His approach to judging is just extremely deliberate and careful and fair. He wants to ensure that every litigant gets the full hearing, that they deserve.
I've called him for career advice, I've lost track of how many times. He's the person that I go to really to talk through any big life decision if it bears on my career at all.